listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show. We have a special guest. She's a book author, also a business owner as well. She has her experience in historical fiction author, but she's also a business owner, and you can go to her website for her business side. That is Novack.com. But man, she also has a pretty awesome book that we'll be talking about today. And without further ado, I want to welcome you to the show, Shirley, and say how you doing.
I'm doing fine, Shemaya. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate your time talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. So with the book that you have, the story of ... kind of share with the audience what inspired you to write this book. And I know it's fiction, but it was also based on your father's life.
Well, my father was an immigrant who came over to this country at the beginning of the 20th century. And that's what the 3 dots signified, because this is his story, sort of, but everybody that came over here from Eastern Europe in that time period has a story. So this is my father's basic story, but the dots are for every other person that has a story to tell. What makes my father's a little different is that his mother died when he was 12 years old, and his father, who was a tyrant, sent he and his 9-year-old brother to live in the care of a brothel. And his father came to America and said, "I'll send for you when I have money." In the meantime, he spent 3 years in the brothel where he was raped by a Polish soldier. This is the meat of the story, and that part is not fiction. That part is true, which gave me a good foundation for creating a historical fiction novel. So the rest of it is really not based on fact. The rest of it is fiction, but I had that groundwork to start with, and I've always wanted to write this story. So it took me decades, but I finally sat down and did it. And it's gotten great reviews, and I am now a published author, and I'm not that young. So I've had so many careers in my life, and they've all been very successful, but this is the one I'm most proud of, I think.
And with that,
I don't know what my next one will be, but right now I'm flying high off the publication of my book. So that's that. And it was really a labor of love. This is going to sound very strange, but when I was in the 4th grade, my teacher, Mr. Willett, who I'm trying to locate part of his family, he gave us an assignment to write a poem about spring. And he was so impressed by my poem, he made me read it to the entire school. And he came up to me afterwards and told me that someday you're going to be a great writer. Do not ever stop writing. And even though I was 9 years old, it stuck with me my whole entire life. And I've never published anything, but I've always loved to write. And the only acknowledgement that I have in the book is to Mr. Willett, who he could conceivably still be alive, because we were his first class after he graduated college. And so I am trying desperately to find his family, because I want them to know what kind of an influence this man had on me. And so far, I've had no luck. His name is John Willett, and he was from Boston. And I've gotten him as far as going on to teach English at Boston English High School. But the records don't go back that far, and I've had no luck in trying to locate him. So if anyone out there is listening and knows of a Mr. John Willett from Boston, please let me know. And so that is the crux of my book.
And when you look at the opportunity you have to be on a platform where you are connecting with readers, and like you stated earlier, you have a lot of great reviews that people have made towards your book and giving you feedback. What's it like for you as an author now? You get to wear that hat because, like I said, you are a business person as well, but you can add the authorship to your resume.
It's actually surreal. And the best advice I can give to anyone out there is don't ever stop. Don't ever think you're either too old or too inexperienced to try something new, because the possibilities are endless. I mean, I have had so many different careers in my life. I mean, as you said, I was a surgical assistant. I went to school for laboratory science and ended up working with the premier research group in Boston. And our research was operating on the unborn, because back then in those days, that was something that had never been done. And I was fortunate enough to be a surgical assistant on the research team. And as you know now, doing fetal surgery is commonplace. But we were the ones that started it. And so I feel that I've been very, very fortunate, because every opportunity I've had, I've grabbed, and I've been successful at it. And I'm very proud that I have. But it's kind of strange, because I came from a family background of a very depressed mother and a father who worked 7 days and nights a week. And I was always told what I was not capable of doing. So I guess growing up with that negative background, you try to do what saying no, you can't do it was the impetus for me to see what I did not want to become. And I had to prove that I could do it. And I did. But it was unlikely when you have that negative background. And my siblings and I also talk about how we saw what we did not want to become. So that was a positive. The negative became a positive in our lives, because we've all done very well, oddly enough. So never say never.
You listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, Shirley Novack, and you mentioned about your parents. Kind of touch on that a little bit more with the audience, because you are a first generation daughter of Polish and Russian parents. Kind of, what was life like with your parents?
They were hard workers. My mother was clinically depressed, so often I was sent to live with relatives because she'd be in a hospital. So she was in and out of depression. And in those days, they didn't know what to do with it. It was something that was taboo. I mean, in this time period, people recognize mental illness, and it's not a taboo subject anymore. People deal with it head on, which is a positive thing. But my mother was always a very needy and depressed person. And I can honestly say that she did not make my life easy, because she was very dependent on me to do a lot of things. And she didn't always steer me in the right direction, but I prevailed. I was stronger than she was. My father was not the kind of father that most people would want to have, because I loved him dearly, but he worked. He wasn't the type of father that would go to ball games or take you anywhere. He worked 7 days and nights a week. And the character in my story is not, my father's name was Samuel, but in the book, his name is Jacob. And Jacob's character in the book is very indicative of what my father was. But I can't say it was like the all-American kind of household, because it was anything but. So the fact that, I grew up to be a very, very happy person. I wake up every morning and I inhale the day before me. I really do. My cup is always half full. And it's just surprising because that wasn't the environment that I grew up in. And yet I knew my father always had demons, but it wasn't until after he passed away that I found out about the rape in the brothel. And I just felt so sad for him. And I just always wanted to write this story. And I finally did. And I found it easy. I found it easy to write it. I found it easy to get it published. And the whole thing has just been such a joy, becoming a published author at my age, because I'm 75 years old, although I will add that I'm a very, very young 75. Mentally, I'm probably 18. But I'm on my second book. I've just started my second book, and I love doing this. So, don't ever say never, because there's always something else you can be doing. And if you don't try, you'll never succeed.
And I believe you said you have siblings. Is that right?
Yes.
Have they been aware of your book, and have they read it for themselves?
Oh, yes. They're very proud of me. In fact, one of my brothers is a historian, and he's published 14 books, I believe. And he always wanted my book to be nonfiction. And he insisted that I get all my dates right, and it's nonfiction, I do my research, et cetera, et cetera. And I started out doing that, but I found it wasn't what I really wanted to do. I wanted to make up a story based on fact. And I finally said, forget it. I'm going to do my thing. You do your thing. His book just came out on Obama, actually. And he read my book, and I was shocked because he loved it. Interesting, though, his remembrance of my father was different than mine, because he was older and he was a boy. I was the youngest. I was the baby. And I was a girl, and my father treated me a lot differently than he treated my brothers. But still, I just see my father for what he was, which was a very hardworking, humble, dignified kind of person. Never made a lot of money, but he was always a very dignified person. And he pushed that on us. Be respectful, no matter what, be respectful. So I have two brothers, and they're both very, very happy with my book. And they're proud of me. My kids, I have 3 kids, and they're shocked. They're shocked at what their mother has done. And so it's just been a joyride.
You also, when you went to school school at Fisher College in Boston. You got your degree in laboratory science. But a little bit later, you went back to school and you started your interior design business.
Well, after my youngest started nursery school, I went to work part-time for 2 interior designers. I actually had hired them, and they ended up hiring me. And I worked for them for 3 years, and I got the groundwork in and decided to go out on my own. But if I was going to do it, I was going to do it the right way and get a degree. Even though it really wasn't necessary, the experience was really all I needed. However, I wanted to do it right. So I went back to school, but I could only do it at night because I had 3 little kids at home. And so I took 1 course a semester for 9 years. And after 9 years, I got my degree in design, but by then I was already an established designer in Boston. And I had a name for myself. I didn't want anyone to know that I was just graduating school. But that's how I did it. And it was, one course a semester. I never gave up on it. It's like, well, I'll do one more semester. I'll do one more semester. And then it just became too close. And I finished. And I've been an interior designer now for 38 years, but I'm sort of semi-retired because now I'm writing. And I've only kept, pardon?
No, go ahead.
No, I've only kept a couple of clients that I have had for a long time who don't aggravate me. So I've closed my practice off to new people, but it's really it's a demanding profession because you have to rely on truckers, and you just have to rely on the supply chain. And even though you're not responsible for when things come in, you get the brunt of it. You get blamed. People get upset. God, their chair isn't in yet. What are you going to do? And so I decided I don't want to do that anymore because the whole industry has changed. It used to be smaller, and now everything is online. Everything is on the internet. And, people just, they think they can do it themselves, and then they make mistakes. But it's a very demanding business, and I'm glad to be pretty much out of it and only working for people who make me smile a lot.
Yeah, I want to point that out because your book, The Story of ... that was published in 2021.
Well, actually, because of the pandemic, the supply chain was backed up, and it really did not come out on the shelves until February of 22.
Oh, okay.
Even though it was ready for publication in December of 21,
mm-hmm.
It did not become available until February of 22.
Yeah, I want to point that out because with your business interior design, you had a very successful business, and I like what you said earlier, it's never too late. You got into writing now, and now that you're semi-retired and you're working on your second book, you're kind of making it look kind of easy. I know it's not, but is it more of a relief for you to kind of have this more time in your schedule to write? Was the process like transitioning from, being your own boss to kind of still your own boss now, but I'm just saying, like, from working in the office all the time with interior design, you're now having the freedom to write books?
I don't ask me why, but I still do not have enough hours in the day. Still, for some reason, I am busy as well. I'm doing a lot of book clubs. I'm doing podcasting, and I'm doing some book signings, and that keeps me really, really busy. When I can fit it in, I spend time writing, but I would like to have more time to really get into the writing as I did during the pandemic. But it will come. I mean, the couple of clients that I do have do keep me busy as well. My husband will tell you that my definition of relaxation is not having an empty minute in the day, to make use of every second of every day. I don't like to sleep. I find that a nuisance. It interferes too much with what I want to do, with what I want to get done. But I think that's why I've been able to accomplish as much as I have. So even though I don't have the constraints of running my business anymore to the extent that I used to, I still find that I don't have as much time to do everything I want to do. So writing will become a priority again. As far as the amount of time I can spend doing it, it's still my priority mainly, but I just don't seem to have the hours to sit down and really just get it out like I did with my first book. It just seemed to flow out of me. And this time I just find I just want to make the time to sit down and finish it. And it will get done. It's just taking a little longer.
We're talking to Shirley Novack here on I Am Refocused Radio. And with all that said, do you believe that you got your work ethic from your parents? And
yes.
It sounds like you are practicing what you observed.
Yeah. Well, my father had an incredible work ethic. And he did pass that on to us, his children. You know, work hard, study hard. Education was very important to him. And also be respectful of other people. And part of the reason I think that I became successful as a designer was because I never came in presupposing what my clients wanted. I would listen. And as an interior designer, listening is one of the most important things you can do, because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is keep your clients from making major mistakes that cost them a lot of money and ending up with a product that they're happy with. And I got many clients who fired their designers because they were telling them what to do. They were telling the client, this is what you have to do. You have to do this, that, whatever. And I've never done that. I have asked, what is it you want to accomplish? What is it you want to live with? And I think I got that from my father, learning to listen. And that was important. And so the clients that I've kept that I'm still working with are like family. They've been with me, like each one has been with me for about 20 years. And they are just, it's a labor of love when I'm with them. It's easy and it's fun. So that's why I'm still keeping one hand in there, but mainly I want to be known as an author right now.
And with your family, did both of your parents end up coming to United States, or was that just you and your siblings?
Oh, no. We were born here. The kids were born here. My father came over when he was 16. Mm-hmm. My mother came over when she was 7. And they met years later and got married. So I am first generation American living here. And also growing up in Boston, it was just growing up where I grew up in Boston was like a Jewish ghetto. And no one had money. Everybody was poor, but we didn't know it because we became self-sufficient. If we wanted a good time, we had to create it ourselves. And books have been written about our neighborhood. Honest to God, there's been 2 big books out there. And I wouldn't trade that for anything, because I'm still friendly with some of my elementary school friends. And we may not see each other for 50 years, but when we do see each other, it's like no time has passed. In fact, one friend that I haven't seen in 60 years came to a book signing, and it was like no time had passed. It's wild. And this is basically the neighborhood that I grew up in from Boston. And like I said, we were all poor, but none of us knew we were poor because we didn't have anything to compare it to. And so it was just, we relied on our friends for everything. And that was that.
When you look at the success you have with your books, or your book and soon to be second book, what would you say to authors out there who are worried about the whole process, right? Branding, marketing. Once it's out, then what? Based on your experience, what would you share with aspiring authors?
Well, I did not want to self-publish, but being my first book, I could not exactly just go into Random House or Simon and Schuster. They wouldn't give me, I wouldn't even try because it's ridiculous. They don't know who I am. So I did my due diligence and I learned about hybrid publishing. And hybrid publishing is when you go with a publishing company and they do everything. Well, this one did everything from soup to nuts. And you have to put up money up front, but not very much. I thought it was a very small amount of money for what I got for it. But then the company I'm with, they don't take a dime back until you've made your investment back. So once I signed a contract with them, they took over completely, but I had full control over what I would allow and what I wouldn't allow. And they even let me design my own book cover, which I understand most people don't, most publishing houses don't do. But this was the Fulton Press. And they're the only publishing company that I sent my manuscript to. I sent them my manuscript and they did not charge for that. And they said, we'll look it over. We'll call you in a few weeks and we'll let you know if we're interested in signing you. And they ended up calling me in 3 days. And that was it. So between writing the book, finding a publisher, getting it published, I just found it very easy, which I understand is not that easy for many people. But if you do your due diligence and check out, what you're doing and where you're sending it to, a query letter is very important. A query letter is a synopsis of what you're publishing, of what you want to have published, and you send that out to your publishers first. Unfortunately for me, I printed out about 50 query letters and only sent one, and only needed to send one. And I lucked out with the company I ended up with. But as far as marketing goes, I would have to say that you have to depend on yourself to do a lot of the marketing afterwards, unless you want to hire a publicist. And I wasn't going to go that route. So I marketed myself on all the different social media pages. And I just let it be known. And that's when I started doing book clubs and everything else. And you have to do your own marketing unless you want to spend the money on someone else doing it for you. I mean, Fulton Press did a certain amount of marketing and publicity, but I think it was probably the one area they fell a little short on. But I'll find out this week, actually, how many books sold this past quarter. But so far, I've gotten a check every quarter from them. So, it's been good. But I would say for people who have never published a book before, really research it and see what it takes. And if you want to self-publish, that's a different road to go through. Hybrid publishing worked out very well for me. And getting a regular publishing company first time out might be a little difficult. But nothing is impossible, right? Nothing.
Right. Once again, talking to Shirley Novack on Refocused Radio. And when you look at what's next, share with the audience, if you don't mind, a little hint of your next book that you're working on. You don't have to give the title away if it's not time yet, but where are you heading as far as direction? What are you trying to publish?
Well, actually, I started the book with the day that Jacob dies. And I take it from there with the rest of his family. And it involves criminals. I like murder and mayhem. crime, love, all the good juicy stuff that's in it, and this delves into the criminal industry. And I'm an avid watcher of investigation, discovery, and 2020 and 60 Minutes, and Dateline. I like true crime stories, so that's where I'm going with this one. And this is really, except for the first chapter, the rest of the book is pure fiction. And I do not have a title for it yet.
When people can follow you on social media, you're on the major ones that people can find you on: LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, also Pinterest. When people want to stay updated to what you're doing next, is there a particular social media platform that you use to make your announcement?
Shirley Novack, author, on Facebook. And Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. They will all be notified. I mean, I'll keep up with that and make sure that I am publicizing when the next book is due to come out. And this time I am going to find an agent. I am going to try to find an agent, because now I have something to lean on. The book is successful. And so I have something I can fall back on and present to an agent, because I would like agency behind me.
Once again, this is I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, Shirley Novack. And before we check out, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience? Any future updates, near future events, or any call to action that you have us take?
Nothing that other than the fact that, I'm doing book clubs. I'm booked out through the end of the summer with book clubs. I'm doing podcasting. Thank you for having me. And if anyone out there happens to know a family man by the name of John Willett from Boston, Massachusetts, I would love them to contact me on Facebook and let me know where I can find his family, so I can let them know what kind of an influence this man had on a 9-year-old. And I appreciate you having me on, Shemaya. Thank you.
Appreciate your taking time talking to us on Refocused Radio. Been talking to our guest, Shirley Novack, and like she said, you can find her on social media. We'll have all those links in the description. You also get her book, The Story of ... on Amazon, anywhere you can find a book to purchase. So I want to say thanks again for your time, for talking to us today.
Thank you again, and have a great rest of the day.